Let's build something that in my opinion is one of the most beneficial and influential farms that you can possibly make. And that is turning your base into a mob farm. Having your home produce gunpowder for rockets and TNT, bones for bone mealers, string, spider eyes, and redstone for scaffolding, potions, and redstone machines. I mean, it's crazy how much value there is in getting all the drops that mobs provide anytime that you're just hanging out at your base. And best of all, it's easy to hide. You won't even know that it's there. There are no restrictions or limitations. You can build it behind a wall, inside of a mountain, flush under the ground, completely hidden out of view, or as its own building, and decorate it however you see fit. So whether you live in a castle, a house, or underground, it doesn't matter where you live because there's so many different options for you to hide it. Whether you build it smaller or bigger, under the ground, behind a wall, terraform it, all of that is totally up to you and is 100% in your control and easily doable. I'm always surprised at the sheer value that this provides. Anytime that you're sorting your inventory, messing with storage, anytime that you're building, doing anything at your base, even just running in circles, your house is literally providing you with gunpowder and bones and redstone and string and spider eyes and so much more. And then if you ever want to improve the rates, all you have to do is equip your looting sword. There's no lever, there's no anything to worry about. The average hourly looting rates are as follows: almost 800 gunpowder, 800 bones, and tons of other stuff. And yeah, the rates are lower than dedicated farms, but think of how much time you spend at your base doing things that you want to do, not being forced to AFK a farm, getting valuable loot while you actually play the game. Plus you have the option to have dedicated AFK sessions anyway. Even at a smaller size, the production is great. Now we will talk about experience orbs later on. You can either let it pile up, you can move it to you, or you can destroy it. It all depends on what you want and if you're playing multiplayer. What we're actually doing is calculating the spawn distance from the place that we hang out the most. So while this will be active anytime you're in the nearby area, it will be the most efficient or the most active from the location that you hang out the most. But the spawn range is big enough that we have tons of wiggle room, and the size in which we choose to build the farm will also impact the range in which it's active. Now, one thing that you may be wondering is how we can get looting via a Trident Killer without it just always being turned on. And that is thanks to these automated Trident Killers that will automatically turn themselves on and off based on mobs being present. So once you move far enough away for the mobs to despawn, the Trident Killer will just automatically turn itself off. And those automated Trident Killers have their very own video. So if you want to build different kinds of farms using the same methodology, you can check that out and get that done. And in that video, I talk more about using water streams to move the items and experience, all with the intention of being as lag friendly as possible, where nothing is turned on unless it needs to be. The first thing to do before building this farm is to decide where you hang out the most. This could be a house, a farm, a room, or even a roof or something. Now, if you live on like a skyscraper, you want to pick the highest Y level that you hang out at, because the most important part of the farm to be close to you is the bottom. So from the highest Y level in your most common hangout spot, we're going to count out 22 blocks from that location. And that 22nd block is going to be the closest wall of the farm. The total build area is 20 by 20. And again, you can build this above ground, below ground, or the full size version. But we can only build it about 24 blocks above this Y level and about 15 blocks below this Y level. From top to bottom, the max size version, including the Trident Killer, is going to be 45 blocks tall. But none of that really matters. You can build this bigger or smaller. The only two important parts is that the farm itself is 20 by 20 and that the bottom of the farm is no further away than 21 blocks from the highest Y level that you hang out at. Because if the bottom of the farm is too far away from you, mobs will despawn when they fall down into the kill chamber. So especially if you live on like a really tall castle or a skyscraper, it's just something to keep in mind. Once you've measured out the 22 blocks from your common area, we're going to find the center 4 blocks of the 20 by 20 build area, and we're going to dig down up to 21 blocks. If you want the entire farm to be under the ground, or you want the full-size version, dig down by 21. But you don't have to dig down at all if you don't want to, if you're going to build the farm above the ground or something. But at the bottom of the tube, we're going to dig out a 4 tall 9 by 5 area for our Trident Killer. Then starting under the drop chute, on the left side, we're going to place 4 blocks, and on the right side, we're going to place 3. Then 1 block away, here in the front, we're going to place a double chest with a hopper pointed into the back, aligned with the 4 blocks. And if you want to expand this, you can add more chests and hoppers going down, or you can substitute it for a water stream or a dropper elevator or whatever you want. Just keep in mind that with looting, the max size version will produce about 7 double chests worth of items per hour. But then place any kind of trapdoor right above the hopper using a temporary block, and then we're going to surround this 4 and 3 platform diagonally up with either solid blocks or glass. I like using glass so I can see the mobs in the kill chamber. But then here on the back, on the opposite corner from the sticky out part, we're going to place a bucket of water so the water flows over toward that sticky out part and gets stopped by the trapdoor. And then we're going to go up by 1 more block or glass everywhere except for right here. In this hole, we want to place a solid block 1 block away from the one below it, so that we can place a tripwire hook on the opposite block and on that solid block connected by string. So the string will be aligned with the sticky out part and that solid block there in the front. This is what makes the Trident Killer automatic. But then we want to go up by more blocks or glass aligned with our tube so that there's no room for mobs to escape. Just a 2x2 drop chute into the kill chamber. But then here on the front, we want a regular piston 1 block above our chest, so it's diagonally up from the trapdoor, and then diagonally up from that, we want 2 pistons right here. Then we want to place 3 solid blocks in these positions with dust on top of those blocks and on top of the lower piston, like so. Then we want a redstone torch on the side of the block that has the tripwire on it. Then right in front of that torch, we want 4 blocks. Pop out the bottom one and the middle one so that we have a hole right in front of the torch. Then place 2 more solid blocks going diagonally up from that. Place a torch on the side of that block with a repeater pointed toward the back next to that dust, and dust on top of the lower block. And that's it. We are now totally done with the Trident Killer. All that's left is to throw in our tridents. Now, preferably, we want these tridents to have impaling 5. But if you don't have impaling, that's totally fine. Just impaling will kill the mobs faster. We want to throw 1 trident directly in the center in front of each of the 3 pistons, and try to throw them as centered as you possibly can in front of those pistons. But then, as always, I would recommend placing down a sculk catalyst to eat the experience. Especially if you're playing on a multiplayer server, experience orbs are super laggy, and there's no sense in letting them lay around if it's not necessary. It doesn't matter as much if you're playing on single player, of course, but especially if you're playing on a server with other people, place down a sculk catalyst just to eat the experience. But now all that's left is to build the spawning platforms, which again, we can build these at any size. We can have 1 layer or we can have 20. All that matters is if you want the farm to be totally under the ground, or if you want to hide it in some other way. If you dig down, the hole is going to be 18 by 18. And make sure that all of the walls are completely solid. No transparent blocks and no light-giving blocks. But regardless of if you build this below or above ground, we're just going to start off by building 2 8-wide wing platforms, and then the outer walls. We also want a trench directly in the middle that is made up of 2 8-long sections that is 2 blocks below the 8-wide wings, and at least 1 block above the top of our Trident Killer. And just make sure that all of this is centralized with the 2x2 hole that we dug to build our Trident Killer. But then if you want to, you can replace the blocks in this trench with magma. It's just something that I like to do. It helps damage the mobs and might occasionally prevent a despawn. But then another optional thing is to place 4 coral fans of any kind right there in the middle of that hole. But the fans and the magma are totally up to you. But either way, whether you use them or not, we need to place 2 buckets of water at the ends of each side of this trench. So the water will flow right up to the edge of the hole and stop. Now another optional step is to place coral fans at the edge of these 8 wide platforms. These coral fans will dramatically help, but are not completely necessary. The farm will still work almost as good without the fans. But either way, now we need to cover both of the 18 by 8 platforms in scaffolding. Then along the back of each platform, right above the scaffolding, we want to place a row of water, making sure not to accidentally flood any of the scaffolding as we go. So the water will flow right up to the edge and stop. So this is what you will have. Now we just need to cover all of the water in solid blocks. So directly above the water, place solid blocks so that we have 2 brand new 8 by 18 platforms. And then just repeat this process as many times as you want. Place in the optional coral fans. And if you don't want to use coral fans here, just don't use anything. Do not use trapdoors. Either use coral fans or nothing at all. But then place in your scaffolding, your water, and your new solid blocks. And then just keep repeating this process until you're done. If you want to have just a couple of platforms, that's totally fine. Or if you want to stop when you reach the surface, that's fine too. The max size version will have 13 total platforms, 13 layers of scaffolding. But you could technically build more than 13 layers if you want to. The more layers, the better. But really, like 13 is the good optimal range for the maximum size. But when you're done, you can cover it in any blocks. Like if you want it to be hidden under the ground, just cover it in dirt and grass. Then you won't even know that it's there. Or if you want to keep building and build the max 13 layer version or a 14, 15, 16 layer version, just keep building up. The same process. You will need to build the walls this time. Compared to building it underground, most of the walls are built for you. Just all the walls need to be solid and not let in any light, whether above or below ground. Just the entire inside of the farm needs to be dark for mobs to spawn. And then you don't want any holes or ledges for mobs to get stuck on. But one last thing you could do to slightly improve the rates is cap it off with tinted glass. If the farm has sky access, the rates will be slightly improved. But it's harder to hide that since it needs sky access. So really, like whenever I build this in my own personal bases, I never give it sky access. Just know that that will help the rates. But the rate test with looting that I mentioned earlier did not have sky access. So if you built one that same size that had sky access, it would have much higher rates than I listed earlier on. And that's all there is to it. So if we come down here, we can see that mobs are now spawning and falling down into the chamber. The Trident Killer is turning on and mowing them down. And if you want some quick experience, you can always just temporarily break the sculk catalyst to collect the experience. But AFKing this from down here will not give you the same rates as it will if you AFK it from the place that you initially measured from. That place is the ideal range, where most of the farm is within spawning distance. Whereas if you AFK it down at the bottom, half of the farm isn't going to be within spawning distance. And that's where if you built this at a different size, bigger or smaller, or if your measurements were different, or if you move around to different locations, all that really affects is the distance in which the mobs can spawn or despawn. And as long as you are within despawn range of the Trident Killer, the farm will be active. And one really influential thing is how much of the area you light up, how much of it is spawn proofed. Especially at night, if you're spawning a bunch of mobs all around your base, well, that takes up the mob cap. So your farm will produce less mobs the more mobs there are within the area. And this includes underground caves. So you don't have to worry about it too much, but over time, the more caves that you light up, the more of your base area that you light up, the less mobs that spawn within this area, the higher your rates will be. And you don't have to spawn proof hundreds of blocks in each direction. On the default simulation distance of 4, you only have to spawn proof 44 blocks in all directions from where you hang out the most. Mobs will despawn if they're outside of that 44 block range. So just, It depends on your sim distance, and it depends on where you like to hang out. But just continue to light up your area in the caves as you normally would to make your area safe, and know that that will increase the rates of your mob farm. Out of all the things that I've ever built or done in survival, this right here was one of the most beneficial. And now it's the second thing I build on any world, the first one being an iron farm trader. The gunpowder alone is so crazy helpful, not having to worry about wasting rockets or, collecting gunpowder just to be able to fly. But not only that, but it gives you a lot of the niche items as well, like redstone and spider eyes for times that you want to make a farm or brew a potion. It's just right there, like your base gives it to you. But that's all we got for this video. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, share, and subscribe. Always remember that you are totally awesome, but above all, don't forget to have fun. Bye-bye.